OneWestmagazine, One West Radio. It's your boy Damian Sanders holding it down for the West Coast from the tip to the top. From Seattle to San Diego, you already know what time it is. Shouts out to our CEO, OG Suicide, for laying down that One West Magazine foundation. Now tonight, I have a very special guest in the house, man. Now y'all saw his life story on the movie Blow, as depicted by my man Johnny Depp, doing it real big. I got the OG himself in the house, Mr. George Jung, aka Boston George. How are you doing, sir?
Pretty good, Damian. How are you?
Man, I am fantastic. I just want to take the time to first off, thank you for giving me this interview.
Well, you're more than welcome, sir.
Now, I understand in the early stages of the movie Blow being made, you were kind of frustrated with the process in the beginning and whatnot. You hadn't met Johnny Depp yet. As a matter of fact, you didn't know who Johnny Depp was. And as a kid, I grew up knowing Johnny Depp on the show 21 Jump Street. So it was real crazy, seeing him in that movie and really seeing his career grow over the years. Man, that dude became the man. And I feel like Blow was really a movie that had a whole lot to do with the success of his career and whatnot. So, in your opinion, how do you think Johnny Depp portrayed you in the film?
Well, in the beginning, he came to see me, and I really didn't know who he was because I didn't watch television for, years and years and years, and so I didn't go to the movies. As far as the movies and whatever, I liked westerns, John Wayne and all that, so it dates me somewhat. But he showed up at the prison in Otisville, New York, and he looked kind of raggedy, and I said, what the hell have you been doing, man? Like, he looked worn out and like he slept in a dumpster, and he said, I was up all night trying to think of what to bring you, what kind of gift, he said. And he said, I finally came up with giving you this, and he pulled a book out of his pocket called On the Road by Jack Kerouac.
Yeah.
And I had read that, and when I was in the senior in high school, and that book was one of my favorite books in the world, and it kind of induced me to go on the road also. And I looked at him when he gave me that book. He said, "This is my Bible. I take this with me everywhere." And I said, "I think we can get along really well, John."
All day long. Now, I swear to God, he did a hell of a job playing your character, because, the first time I actually saw you speak yourself, I went on YouTube and checked out some of your videos. I immediately man, Johnny Depp really nailed this guy right here all day long. Now, one thing that caught my eye about the movie was the relationship between you and your parents. Now, at what point did your dad, who was played by Ray Liotta, at what point did your dad know what you was up to?
He knew what I was up to when I went into the marijuana business, and at that time, my whole generation was smoking marijuana, the '60s generation.
Yeah.
And so he didn't really look down upon it. He kind of was sad that I didn't pursue the rest of my college career and go into what I intended to do, advertising, but he didn't think really negative of it. He just prayed that he just told me to just stay with your friends doing it and don't go outside of your friends. And he said, I hope you don't get caught. But basically, he wasn't down on it.
Okay, now you did an interview with CBS here recently, and you made a quote. You said, "I had Hollywood behind me, so I didn't have to advertise." So, can you expound upon that statement right there? Well,
we started selling the cocaine to the Hollywood, crowd, and the people in the movie industry and the record industry and the complete entertainment industry, and they basically marketed the product for us. I mean, they promoted it. We had the greatest advertising agency in the world, Hollywood. And, at that time, Carson on the Tonight Show was making jokes about it. Woody Allen made a movie about it, and everybody was talking about it. And and Studio 54 was packed there were more people in the restrooms than there were on the dance floor. And, it became the end product, but it was very expensive at that time, and only people, of some form of wealth could afford it.
Now, dig that. Now, you also mentioned that you were scared all the time when you were involved in that business and whatnot. Now, we know it's not every day that people get to meet kingpins and stuff like that. So, describe that feeling that you had when you had the chance to meet Pablo Escobar.
Well, I was scared all the time, but I loved it. I loved the fear of it. That was my opium, my high. That rush. And as far as meeting Escobar, I had been for years in the mountains of Mexico with the marijuana trade, and I wasn't really overwhelmed with him, but it was somewhat intoxicating to meet him, and then he asked me what I could do for him, and I said I could move your product in airplanes, and I know exactly how to do it. I've been doing it for years out of Mexico, and so then we kind of bonded because I didn't really feel any fear with him, because it was only one really had it. He said I don't want you to get high all the time doing this, and I don't want you ever to betray me. And those are simple rules. I live by those anyway.
Yeah. Now, I have this question as well. Now, I'm here in Hollywood, California right now, man. Born and raised out here in Southern California, and you're from Boston. Now, tell us about one of your most memorable moments when you came out here to Southern California back then.
Most memorable moments is Truman and I drove across country right after the Christmas holidays, and we weren't the smartest guys in the world. We had a little Triumph sports car with the canvas windows snap-on, and we weren't even smart enough to take the southern route. We took the northern route through Chicago, and damn near froze to death. And finally, we drank cold beer all the way anyway. But we finally arrived in Southern California, a place called Belmont Shores in Long Beach.
Yeah. Because
I was going to attend Long Beach State College, and Belmont Shores is a little college beach town. And at that time, when we saw the palm trees and the ambiance and the women, and those were our most memorable moments. It was like we had suddenly found Disney World, and how I got the name Boston George is we were looking for a small apartment to rent. We came to this townhouse, and up on the balcony, there was a for rent sign, and these girls in bikinis were leaning over the railing, and they said, are you guys moving in? And we said, we hope so. And they said, where are you from? And I didn't want to say Weymouth, Massachusetts, because nobody knew where the hell that was. So I said, Boston. And they said, what's your name? And I said, George. And this beautiful little creature of us, she said, Boston George, why don't you guys come up and smoke a joint? And so that's how that happened.
And so it was written, and so it shall pass all day long. Now, once again, this is Onewestmagazine, OneWest Radio. We live and in charge and doing it real big. I got the OG in the house, man, Boston George, all day long. Now, you mentioned earlier that you was a big fan of Western movies, like you and my dad are the same age, and he was a big fan of Westerns as well. And I love all of your quotes that you say. You said, life's a rodeo, and now that you're back in the saddle again, just like Gene Autry, y'all. I'm a big Gene Autry fan. Now, now that you're a free man, what are your plans for the future?
I plan on doing, some talk shows and possibly speaking tours, and maybe at some of the colleges and on a corporate level, and hopefully a reality show, which is in the works with Tremendous Films right now. Okay. And so I look forward to doing that stuff. I'm 73, and it beats walking the dog. So, I hope all this stuff comes to fruition, and I can continue on, piloting the dream machine.
Now, I also read somewhere that there's a novel out there entitled Heavy. Is that still in the works, or is it available now?
It's available now, and it's on online, and it never went to paper publishing. But actually, the publishing business is kind of downhill now. It's not like it used to be.
Yeah.
And they give you a huge advance, and those days are over. But eventually all books will just be online, and so that's available also.
All day long. Now, that's the novel Heavy, you know what I'm saying, written by George Jung. And that's T. Raphael?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
So that was written by yourself and T. Raphael, is that correct?
Right. Todd Cimino, he's the nephew of Michael Cimino, who directed The Deer Hunter.
Okay, I got you all day long. Now, I also had another question. Now, in California, we got all of these so-called marijuana dispensaries, like for medical use. That's what they say it's for, but really it's just like a liquor store for weed. Like, do you ever feel like that marijuana be legal nationwide?
Of course it should be. Like, we've been fighting a war on drugs for like 50 years, and we should have. It's obvious. You look at the news today, and what happened in France and whatever. We should have been fighting a war on terrorism.
All day long. Now, you took a lot of penitentiary chances, man, so it don't take no rocket science to know that you had some guts. It took a lot of guts to do everything that you did. Now, other than the money, you know what I'm saying, what was it that motivated you to make the moves that you did?
Well, at first it was the money, and because a college graduate at that time graduated with a marketing degree or whatever and made $10,000 a year. And I saw the profit in the marijuana, and I realized by living out in Southern California that if you wanted to have a good life, you had to have money.
Yeah.
And so it didn't take me long to calculate, the profits from the marijuana and working 5 days a week for $10,000 a year. So that motivated me at first, but then, the money is just a tool, an object to take you where you want to go. And where I wanted to go, I wanted to play the smuggling game. And so that enhanced me and allowed me to do it. And then it became the thrill of doing it when there was so much money that, the money just became paper to me. But, it also greatly enhanced my life.
Oh, yeah. In a major way. Now, I got a few more questions for you right quick now. I love your quotes. You made another statement. Now, everybody loved Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but it's lonely to be him. Now, explain what that means right there.
Well, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, they had total free will. And there's nothing on the face of the earth like total free will. And, of course, it's not accepted by society, total free will, but it last. It's a hell of a journey. It takes you to the chapel of mysticism, and it's a boutique of wonders. All
day long now. It's 2015 now, right now. And you said you're 73 years old. You just were released from prison. What's your message for the streets right now, for those that's out there that's watching you?
Well, I think that they need to, put the money from the war on drugs against terrorism, and also rebuild the entire inner city educational structure in the United States, and give these kids an education, a decent one, and they won't have to be out in the streets.
Yeah.
And to deal drugs today and get caught is devastating, because the sentencing structure, the mandatory sentencing, it'll take your whole life from you, and the price of it isn't worth it. And I suggest that people seek other avenues, and because when I was in prison, there were kids in there 19, 20 years old with a handful of crack cocaine with 25-year sentences, which is insane.
Crazy all day long. Hey, I appreciate the time, George.
All right, and I'd like to also mention that I think Johnny Depp is the quintessential actor, and he's stood by me, and also his sister Christy is another one who's wonderful to me, and thank Dennis Leary also, who was one of my good friends.
Now, had you guys got a chance to talk since you've been released?
Yeah, we've gotten together, and I had the pleasure of meeting his wife, and I got together with his sister infrequently. In fact, I had lunch with her in LA about a month ago. But Johnny is like here, there, everywhere, and so he's hard to find. But I did, have the opportunity to go to his home and meet him, and we sat and we talked.
Now, you mentioned a sequel to Blow. Is that still in the works?
Well, if that ever happens, it will be totally up to Johnny. But in a way, Blow is a cult movie. And
it's a cult classic all day long.
Yeah. And, when something is that perfect, why try to remake it?
Yeah, I was like really upset when they tried to remake Dallas on TNT, with the late Larry Hagman. The show was pretty good, but it got canceled after 2 seasons, and that pissed me off. So they probably should have just left the show alone.
No, Blow is a classic boutique of wonders, and Johnny, is the essence of everything, and as far as the film industry, and he's very selective in what he does.
Yeah.
And the last film he just made about Whitey Bulger in Boston.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his portrayal of him was incredible. I guess he likes Boston Outlaws.
Now, the last time I seen a character play someone else as well as Johnny Depp played you would have to have been when Denzel played Malcolm X. I was completely convinced he was Malcolm X in that movie. So Johnny Depp definitely nailed your character, talked and moved just like you all day long. So big ups to Johnny Depp. Now, before we go, any quick shout outs for the streets, George?
I'd just like to, say thanks to the guys at Tremendous Films. They've been behind me and beside me and in front of me, and they've helped me tremendously, integrate back into this the real world. And I want to thank you for your interview today. And as far as all the shout outs, it would probably take another couple hours. So I'll just let it go with that. All right.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Now, once again, this is OneWestmagazine, OneWest Radio, y'all. That's been Boston George, man, George Jung, all day long. Make sure if you haven't, if you're not familiar with this guy, go check out that movie that we've talked about, this entire interview entitled Blow, starring Johnny Depp. It's off the chain. You definitely got to check it out. All day long. This is OneWest Magazine, OneWest Radio, and you do know